You are listening to Smart Women's Dating Podcast, episode number 46. Welcome to Smart Women's Dating Podcast. I am your host, certified life coach Lærke Nielsen, and I help smart, independent women attract the love they deeply desire without having to chase or settle. This podcast will give you the mindset tools and insights you need to finally crack the code to your love life. Are you ready? Then let's go. Hey there, welcome back to the podcast. Today is the last episode in the mini-series of 3 about online dating. We had the one about dating profiles, and we had the one about chat and moving out of the app and into the real life, and today is going to be about troubleshooting. What to do when you experience that the apps just don't work for you. And there are of course many different situations where you can experience that. So I had to make a choice about which ones I think could be most useful to talk about today. And I decided to break it down into the following 6 different scenarios, which are not in any prioritized order. Number 1 is if you do not get a lot of matches, or you might not get any matches at all for a period of time. Number 2 is you do get matches, but you don't like the profiles who match with you. And number 3 is you do get matches and you have conversations with them, but then when you meet up and start to get to know them, they are completely unaligned with what you want and they turn out to not be good matches for you after all. And number 4 is you don't see a lot of men that are within your criteria in the dating apps that you're using. And then number 5 is you match with men that you think you would like, but then they don't match back with you. And finally, number 6, you believe that there are just no good men, or your kind of man is not to be found in the dating app. So to begin with, I just want to say that I always recommend that you go for the version of the dating apps where you can see who is matching with you or who is requesting to match with you. And in some apps this is free, but in others you have to pay a monthly subscription to be able to see that. And the reason why I recommend this is that it's so much more time efficient to choose among the pool of men who have already showed interest in you. They have already asked to match with you. So when you match them back, you can start writing instantly. In the other situation, you would have to wait for the guys you matched with or you requested to match with to see if they match you back. And often it's actually a very good starting point that he by himself has found you and he has shown his interest in you. So let's start with number 1 issue. If you do not get a lot of matches. Now you can ask yourself what is a lot of matches and what is a reasonable number of new matches per week. And there's no real answer to that, but let's say you get no new matches for a period of 2 or 3 weeks, then something might be off with your visibility. So it's normal to have a lot of visibility in the beginning when you just open a profile. Your profile will be shown to a lot of men, and you might even be overwhelmed by the number of match requests that you receive. This of course depends on where you live, because if you live in a big city with a lot of people, you can get many matches to begin with. And then it will fade out and it will land at a more steady level where you regularly see new matches or match requests. So I'm not an expert in algorithms, but I know they play a role in visibility in the sense that if you're not active regularly, you will be shown less to other profiles. You will have less visibility. And that's why it's better to log in, for instance, twice a day in a short time than only once in a longer time. And it's good to log in regularly. So if you experience that you get very few matches or it stops completely for a while, then make sure that you stay active on the app. Log in twice a day and write with those you already have matched with and swipe through new people. You also want to take a look at your profile and experiment a little bit. So test if you get more matches if you change your profile photo, and take a look at your text as well and see if you can spice it up a bit. If you're writing the same as everyone else, you will be noticed less. So make sure your text stands out and tells a story about how you are different than everyone else, what makes you unique. So you can try this and shift the photos and see if that changes. And then another thing you can do to try to get more visibility, at least in some apps, is you can boost your profile. Some subscriptions give you access to a number of boosts per month, and it basically just means that your profile will be shown to a lot of people in a short time, like an hour or so, and this could give much more matches. So issue number 2, you do get matches, but you don't like the profiles that match with you. Now, this is in itself not a problem. This is completely normal. At least it's completely normal and to be expected that you don't like all of them. So what is an acceptable number, you can ask yourself? That's of course not possible to say, but if you get, let's say, 100 matches, you want to at least be able to want to connect with 3 to 5 of them. If you don't even want that, then you might be judging too fast and on too little information. And it's important here to say that just because you postpone the time where you decide whether a man is a good match or not, that doesn't mean you lower your standards. That's really important to see the difference in. It doesn't mean that you are picky and you should be less picky. That's not what I'm saying. You still get to have your standards and your criteria. But as most profiles don't offer you enough information to tell you if a man is aligned with what you're looking for, you might want to give it a little bit more time and wait before you decide if he is matching your standards or not. You are basically just deciding on a better foundation, and that is for your own best as well, because you don't want to miss out on a potentially good match. But if you keep thinking that the men that match with you are way out of your criteria, you want to go to the front page of the app where you can swipe through the pool of profiles that didn't match with you yet and go through maybe 100 profiles, for instance. And if among these you see a number of profiles that you really like and you want to match with, that is a sign that there are men that interest you in this app, which is good, of course, but you are currently attracting another type of man. And then you want to try to increase your visibility, as I talked about just before, and at the same time look at your profile and become really specific in what you want. If on the other side you struggle to even see one that you find interesting, that means that both the men that match with you and the ones that don't do not create an interest in you. Now, what is then the common denominator? It is, of course, yourself. It is your mindset. If you swipe through 100 profiles and you cannot imagine writing with one single of them, you might want to look at your mindset. But in the meantime, you can also allow yourself to open a profile in another app, because if your brain believes the grass is greener somewhere else, it can actually work to go and look over there and see for yourself. And then you might see that it's not greener, or you might feel more open to the profiles because you go there with the expectation that you will see better choices. And then once you go back to the previous app, you start seeing the good men again because now your brain is more open to noticing them. It sounds crazy, I know, but it's not, and I've tried that myself in the past. It totally works. The third issue you might experience is when you've been on the apps for a while and you match with a number of men and you got on dates with them, but they all have turned out to not be aligned with what you want. They are not good matches for you, not only from the profile perspective, but also when you meet them in person. You did give them a chance to show you who they are. And again, this is not necessarily a problem. It's part of the process that you meet men that turn out to not be what you're looking for. But you still want to do a review of your own dating process. So look at your profile and see if you are really being specific about what you want and if you're showing what is unique about you. Don't be afraid of scaring some guys away. You want to put forward all the things that makes you special so you attract someone who loves that about you and you repel the rest. So ask yourself if you're writing the same as everyone else, or does your profile really stand out? Then you also want to check your chat and what you talk about on the first couple of dates. I always ask my clients to find out not only what qualities they're looking for in a man, but also how they will know if a man has these qualities. How can you early on find out if he is aligned with what you're looking for? This is a mix of asking the right questions and sharing your own thoughts and reflections and seeing how he responds to that. And some of this is difficult to find out in the chat, and as I said in the previous episode, the deep and analytical questions, you want to save those for in-person dates, So you do need to be willing to go on a couple of dates before you kind of give him the first clearance. You can also take a look at the dates you had so far and reflect on in what ways were they not aligned with what you're looking for. And was there some information you could have had early on that would have told you that he isn't aligned? Is there a question you can ask or something you can look for? Try to learn from the dates where it ended up not being a good match and see if there's something you can change in your own process, in the questions you ask or the exchange you have with him before you go on a date or in the first couple of dates. Number 4 challenge is when you just don't see a lot of men that are within your criteria in the app. And first, here you want to check your criteria and make sure they are not too narrow when it comes to geography and age and so on. Maybe your age bracket could be a 15-year span, and maybe your max distance could be a 1-hour drive or something like that. And also try to use as few criteria as possible in that case, and remind yourself that new people join the apps every single day, and sometimes you just have to be patient and wait a week or so. But you also can experiment with trying out different apps in that situation. If you feel sure that your criteria are very reasonable and you still don't see a lot of men in the app that you're using, then why not add in another? It's very much about having an experimental approach, and in some countries there are local apps that are much more popular than the big international apps like Tinder and Bumble and so on. And then there's the 5th issue, which is the situation where you choose to match from the front page among the men who did not match with you yet, and then you don't get a lot of response. So what happens is you match with those men and then you are waiting to see if they respond, but nothing really happens. They don't match you back. Now, here's the thing. When you choose to match with someone first, this man could have already seen you and decided to not match, or he could have not seen you, and in that case, of course, he could be interested or not interested. You have to be okay with not getting 100% mutual matches here, as they also cannot get with us. And some men do prefer to be the one who chooses the woman, and then the woman basically just accepts the match. But in all cases, it's part of the dating process that some of the men you want to match with, they're not going to want to match you back, and nothing has gone wrong with that. However, you can still do a checkup on your profile to see if you are really putting your best foot forward. Are you showing your best pictures, and are you writing in a way that makes you stand out? So now we're getting to the last issue that I want to talk about today, and that could be something you also carry with you in several of the other cases, and that is the belief that your kind of man is not to be found on the dating app. Or it could be a variation of that: there are no good quality men on the dating apps. And when you have that kind of belief, you're going to block yourself from seeing the potentially good matches. So there was a survey once showing that people who found a partner on a dating app and later married, they actually didn't have this kind of eureka moment when they saw the profile first. They didn't think, wow, here he is, finally, I have found him. It was more like just another profile with a nice person that they could go for a coffee with. So don't tell yourself that you can see it from a distance, because often you can't. And so if you listen to the episode about my client Beth, that's episode 11, you will hear the story of a woman who was absolutely sure that her kind of man was not on the dating apps. And then she met the man of her dreams on Bumble. So it's not true when you tell yourself that your kind of man is not on the dating apps, because all kinds of men are on the dating apps. And how exciting is that? And even if you feel this belief is very stubborn, or you have other variations of it, like there are only a few good men on the apps and chances are I will never meet them, then remember that if you're not out there, you will definitely never meet them. So ask yourself, do you want to be right about this belief? Or do you want to put yourself out there and maybe meet him? Do you want to be right, or do you want to find love? And wouldn't you regret it if at least you didn't try? Mindset issues can of course show up in many other variations too, and they are usually the biggest blockers against meeting love. Now, I talked about beliefs about men and what kind of men you can meet in the dating app, but your belief might as well be about yourself, and thoughts like, he's gonna lose interest before we even meet, or Once I finally meet someone I like, they don't like me back. Or I'm not sure I'm good enough or have enough to offer a man that is really stepping up and making an effort. We can be scared of not getting what we want, not finding the man we truly want. But ironically enough, we can also be scared of actually finding him. Because once it happens and he is there, right next to you, how do you feel about yourself? If you feel a little bit nervous that you're not going to be able to reach his level, or you don't deserve him, or what's going to happen when he sees you on a bad day, for instance, if you have a hidden fear about that, you could be blocking yourself unconsciously. And that can happen as early as in the dating apps, because then you avoid matching with men that you actually find very cool and attractive, because you're afraid that they are too handsome or too cool for you. So this is also one of the reasons it's so good to visualize your future partner. Practice imagining your life together and what it feels like to be in his energy, so that your nervous system can get used to this feeling, and so you gain awareness of the thoughts that come up for you when you imagine this. Because that's also a way to slowly release those fears and remove the blocks that you might have against emotional intimacy, even though you don't know that, even though it feels like this is what you want, this is what you're looking for. So this was a few tips about how to troubleshoot different issues in the dating apps. And with this episode, we end the mini-series on online dating. So I hope you found inspiration and support in these 3 episodes. And you are always welcome to send me your questions, not only about online dating, but anything you want my input to, because then I will answer them in a future Q&A episode. And as you know, if you listen to this podcast regularly, my doors are always open. So if you want to explore the option of us working together, then you can book a call on the link in the show notes or on my website, lærkethelovecoach.com. And I will be back next Thursday with another episode. Have a wonderful week and enjoy dating. If you like what you're hearing on this podcast and you want to get support from a coach on your love journey, I invite you to book a free consult call with me. You will find the link in the show notes. And also, don't forget to subscribe, and I would love it if you would rate and review this podcast, and then you'll also help other women find it.